It's roughly mid-June 2024 as of this recording, and Kings Island's been open for a couple months now. Let's give them a report card. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is the podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are, and that's who we care about.
Yeah, so I guess we're both going to take this from a guest point of view because this is your first time being able to do that in a couple decades. But let's look at the various categories. And granted, it's still kind of early in the season, but as far as like a midpoint review, not exactly a midpoint, but early daily operations, we can take a look at that.
We'll call it first quarter.
Let's first quarter. Yeah, I know that you're doing trimesters now, but that's okay. So for operations, let's talk about operations. What are your thoughts on that?
I always felt, and this, goes before ever working there, that Kings Island always had, some of the best operations in the amusement theme park industry. I still feel that way based on my experience this year. I've visited 17 different times, and, operational wise, I think the park's doing a fantastic job. What about you?
Yeah, that has not dropped off at all. I think that over the past 5 or so years, the ride crews and stuff have gotten so much better. Like they took a big leap a couple years ago, and it's just gotten a little bit better each time. So I think, as far as ride operations are concerned, fantastic. I give them an A.
Yeah, I think across the board, they're having a really good year so far.
Yeah. So let's talk about staffing. Now, staffing is always debatable because anytime something's not open, the story is going to be that it's staffing. But sometimes it just makes business sense to not open a restaurant or a ride or a drink stand or something like that. But is there anything with staffing that stuck out to you that would affect what your thoughts are for the season so far?
There's the opportunity to have, some things staffed that aren't. You've got one side of the racer that doesn't open until noon. You've got the other side, will shut down after 8 o'clock. That's not because of staffing. It's a staffing issue because it's an issue if you staff it because of, budgetary reasons, or you have drink stations that aren't open. So I think when it comes to staffing, they have the number of associates in the pool that they could, have all of these things staffed, but choose not to because of budget. Now, that is not coming from the park level. It's not the decision by Kings Island management. Let's not staff this. Let's not have the drink stands open. Let's not have this restaurant open until, this hour. Let's not have the sweet spot open until 2 o'clock. Those kind of things, it's not coming from the Kings Island side. That's coming from above. It's being directed to the park. You got to cut X, this much money. We've talked about that in other episodes. You've got that big note and everything like that. That's to do. It has nothing to do with the merger coming. Nothing like that. So it's being directed from above. But it is a little frustrating at times, for guests when they have to, keep walking around the park to try to find the drink stand that's open to get a refill.
The drink thing is the most frustrating, and it's funny because you and I talked about the drink stand over by the Beast, and I said I've seen it open twice in my life, and you were like, no. When I was still working there, I'd walk around and I'd see it open more often than not. So I've actually actively looked for it, and I have not seen it open this. I'm not saying it hasn't been open in 2024. I haven't seen it open in 2024.
I haven't seen it open either.
So
I would have shot you a picture if it was.
Yeah, I told you so picture. So yeah, that sort of thing kind of bothers me because when we talk about revenue per square foot, you would have a better opportunity doing something else with that spot if it's going to be a drink stand that's never open. And with that being said, they're adding another drink stand over in Action Zone that's pretty close to the freestyles. So I don't know. Like you said, that might be a Coke decision, but the staffing stuff has been kind of weird because it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Like I thought we would see serious ride rotations much earlier in the season than we did last year. So they didn't solve the drink thing. but everything else is pretty solid. I'm going to give them a B.
Yeah, I'll give it a B plus.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to food and beverage. And this is going to be some source for debate because you and I have had good experiences. We've had bad experiences. Um, why don't you start? Like, you had your pig pens and it was cold. Did you ever get to try pig pens again yet?
I have not yet. There's other. I'm starting to broaden my horizons a little bit and trying some different locations. French Corner. The other day I tried that. Jukebox Diner. So I'm trying to kind of broaden the horizons a little bit and kind of, see all the park, has to offer in the culinary area. But I've used my dining plan 27 times this year.
Mm.
And outside of the one time I tried, pig pens and got the cheesy Metwurst with bacon bits and it was cold. Outside of that, the food has been fantastic. No complaints whatsoever. I mean, portion sizes are good. The food is if it's supposed to be hot, warm, it is. If it's supposed to be cold, it is. So yeah, no issues whatsoever with that. I think the culinary team is doing an outstanding job. And the other part of that too is the wait time is very manageable.
Yes.
They're moving people through. It doesn't, the line for the brew house can be out into the midway area, but they're still moving you through very quick. And once you're in the restaurant, you placed your order. The food still is coming out, quickly, a lot faster than I expected it to. So, yeah, I mean, for food and beverage, I'm going to give that. I'm going to give it an A minus.
Yeah, I think that's a fair grade. There was a little bit of like egg on the face situations with like the double stacked chicken thing and some of the fries, like changing up the menus like on preview day and stuff. So that sets it back a little bit. But I will say that the food is substantially better this year than it was last year. I thought that it really peaked in 2022. It fell way behind last year. It's not up to 2022 standards, but it's definitely a pretty good leap forward this year. So I'm going to give it an A minus as well. I'm going to concur.
Yeah, no, I would have given it an A plus had all the drink stands been open. Where it didn't have to kind of go from one section of the park, from like say Coney Mall all the way over to Rivertown or up to the Eiffel Tower to get a drink sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I see. For me, it's like I would give them a solid A if it weren't for the menu items disappearing. Like I to me, that's kind of like that's your responsibility to make sure that's done correctly, and you advertised it, and then we didn't get it, so that sets it back. I'm over it. That's why it's an A minus. That's still an A.
But I will say this though, I have zero regrets for adding the dining plan on my season pass.
Yeah. Oh, you should.
And the drink
no
on my season pass.
No.
Drink wise, I think I'm up to 45 drinks that I've had.
I can't believe. Yeah, you're the only person I know that's counted drinks. Let's talk about live.
I count everything. When it comes to going to parks.
Okay.
That.
Live entertainment. Let's go with live entertainment. So we got, so far as of this recording, there's Country Crossroads, there is Retrospect, and there is Under the Stars. Now, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to say all three of those are A+ shows. I am, granted, like, we don't have the stunt show open yet. That opens in a couple weeks. And then the bubble thing opens this weekend as of this recording. And we will do a show on that in our talks. But for the trio that we do have, I think A+ effort, A+ results. I had zero expectations for entertainment this year with the park, just knowing how the outlook wasn't so good. And I'm so pleasantly surprised. A+. What are your thoughts?
A+. I mean, without question, all three of the shows that we've had an opportunity to experience, just off the charts good. I think the nighttime show, there are elements of that I think are better than Fun Fireworks and 50 was for the 50th anniversary. I like the way that they've, gotten better about, how they're incorporating the drones into the show. I like the music, that it is an original score for Kings Island. I like that. So there's, a lot to like with the nighttime show. High energy, for the show on the bandstand, Retrospect. Really like that, especially at, once you get the nighttime version.
Oh,
We've talked
yeah.
about this.
Don't bother until it's nighttime, and then totally see the nighttime one. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
cool.
The 15-minute show is better than the 25-minute show.
Yes, yeah.
With that, but very good. A must see when you're going to Kings Island is to check out the bandstand show and the country show. Wow. I've been a big fan of country music shows at Kings Island since the 1980s. 1982 to 86, they had some fantastic country shows. A lot of tremendous talent in those shows. Something that was a must do every time I went to Kings Island during those years. I had to make sure that I watched at least the country, one time with the country show. Sometimes I'd watch all four. But the show they have in the Fest House right now, the live band, adds so much to that show. I wrote a story the other day about it on Theme Parks by Don about how much I enjoyed that show, and it's right there. It takes me back to those shows in the 1980s. Just how good they were, and that's something that I hope all guests go into the Fest House and check out the country show because it's really good this year.
This is going to be complete heresy, but I feel like that show would fit in at Dollywood. And that says a lot being a country show. And what I mean by that is the talent's there. It's got the live band. The one thing that I think that kind of sets it aside that's really cool that you don't always see in theme park shows, but you see in concerts a lot is there's the interlude where the girl playing the fiddle. Yes, it is a fiddle. It's a country show. Plays the tune from Devil Went Down to Georgia. While the cast either does a costume change or takes a break or whatever. I think that is such a good show. Usually with the country shows, it's kind of like, all right, I'll watch this and maybe I get into it a little bit, but I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I mean, it's that good.
Okay. It's really good. And the only thing I would have about that, and we've talked about this, is because you have a live band, I think it would play much better being in the showplace. I think that it would get more appreciation from guests if it was out there like they used to do the country shows in the 1970s, the 1980s. The Fest House is a tough venue for a lot of reasons. If you're just in there to have a meal and talk with your friends, you get overpowered by the show. If you're there to watch the show, you have everybody talking and eating their food, and they're walking back and forth in front of the stage, with their tray of food, trying to find their friends and family and stuff. So there are some distractions to it, but the show itself, it's phenomenal, and entertainment, A+.
Yeah, definitely A+. So Camp Snoopy. Now you and I have given this grades. If I recall, I was at B+, you were at A-. Mm-hmm. But quick recap. So my thing was really liked it. I thought the ride is really good. It's fun. The theming is pretty good. The two things, and you probably concur with a lot of this, but the number one thing for me is that it did not solve the problem of this is a concrete slab, let's do something with it. It's still a concrete slab with stuff behind it now. And the theming in the queue. There's very little to do with the theming in the queue. But do you have any additional thoughts you want to add in there? And is your grade still A- for it?
It's still an A-. Yeah, and I think that I would have liked to seen a little bit better job with the storytelling that they could have done with that. Do a little bit more with the queue. Mm-hmm. But overall, I mean, it's nitpicking. I mean, it's an excellent addition to the park with Camp Snoopy. I mean, I think it looks beautiful. Great ride. I like Pigpen's Mess Hall. I think that looks really good. Families are spending a lot of time in Planet Snoopy. When they're not riding the ride, you got the play area with the Beagle Scout Acres. So yeah, I mean, A-.
Okay. Communication. So this is just basically a blanket. We're not talking about PR. We're talking about communications with the guests, particularly. What are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of stuff's gone on. They had a festival. They had the opening of Camp Snoopy. They had the opening of the park. Where are we at with communication?
I think it's inconsistent. I think there's times you're getting peppered. In 3 or 4 days, you're getting 5 or 6 messages about things, and you might go 10 days without hearing from the park. I think the one thing, I'm a season pass holder, so I don't need to be getting messages about buy my silver pass before it goes away. I don't need to get those every day toward the end of May. I think that they got to be a little bit better about knowing who their pass holders are and making sure you're targeting the right audience instead of just blasting things out there hoping something sticks. So I'd like to see a little bit of improvement with that. I think you'd like to know more about some things that are happening. There wasn't a lot out there about, the food and wine festival. We knew about it, because we saw at the park, they were putting up the decor and everything. So we knew that was coming, but there wasn't a whole lot to it. And the things they did send out was just a brief little, description of it. Then it was click here to learn more, which was the same exact thing you already just saw. So it wasn't really telling you why you wanted to do this. It was telling you it's there. Here's the dates. But it wasn't selling you on why you should come to
and
the
it
park
was
to
kind of
experience
like, and we might have just discussed this off air, but I remember thinking like, is this a tasting card situation? And so there was a lot of it was almost like it was announced, but all the details had not been finalized at that time.
Yeah, but they've done a good job, though. The few times that weather has impacted things, getting out the message that Soap City would be closing and that. So, it's not, it's not an A level with communication. It's not a D or F level. I think it's somewhere right in the middle. So I'll give it a C plus.
Yeah. Uh, uh, yeah, I'll go with the C pluses. We're about the C range as well. I had a C in mind, so I don't want to just go with a C plus. So that kind of bridges us into the app / pass perks kind of thing. Now I'm going to preface this by saying there is currently an issue with the app in which people's season passes along with their pass perks are disappearing. That definitely hurts. That's kind of growing pains with a new app. But the fact of the matter is we're in daily operations. This needs to be working if you're going to use it as part of your strategy, and it's not working.
Yeah, like today when I looked at the app, now I didn't go to the park, but if I opened the app, I was wanting to check something out with one of the rides, and it said I didn't have a season pass or anything, and all my perks disappeared. So had I not checked that out and I had driven to the park, I parked my car, I walked from where I parked to the front gate, and then I went to pull it up and it's not there. And I left my physical pass back in my car. I'd have to go all the way back out and probably get it again or go to guest services and try to look me up in the system. I have a pass, kind of a thing. So yeah, there's some things with it that for whatever reason, there's always all these different upgrades of the app, the new app, download it and all those kind of things. And there's always things about it that are better than before, but there's always some of those issues that just plagues it.
Yeah. So this, I was going to mention the center communication, but I'm going to save it for the app. But the app is not updated consistently too. Like I remember you honestly texted me last week and you were like, why aren't there fireworks tonight? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And you sent me a screenshot of it saying that there's no shows tonight for the fireworks. And then you tweeted it and it got fixed. But there's a lot of that with the individual shows too. So here's the thing, like it's an easy mistake to make. But when it comes to the app, and the app is your new park map, that has to be correct. It has to be correct every single day because that's where people are getting their information, and it's where you're promoting people getting their information. So for you to say that,
yeah, well, let's also talk about something else here. It ties in with communication and the app. Is that they're showing some attractions that they're saying are down, but they're up and running.
yeah,
So these rides will not operate, right now. And they are. So I think they just got to clean that up a little bit. But in terms of the app, the pass perks, what I've received, they're decent deals. Getting the percentage off of the Beast 45th anniversary merchandise, that's a nice offer. And, you visit 4 times, in the month of June. And, you're going to be able to get the Bring a Friend tickets. Now, I don't know if those are still going to be offered. I've visited more than 4 times in June already, but I don't know since everything got wiped off, the app this morning. I don't know if those are still going to be, added back in or whatever there, but, it's a work in progress, but it's more encouraging and it's better than it's ever been with pass perks, I think.
yeah. Now let me ask you a two-sided question about the Beast thing, because I had a conversation with one of somebody list, his name's Daniel, you know who I'm talking about, so hi Daniel, and he bought a Beast shirt 45% off, and he was like, it's such a great deal and pass perks is so brilliant and stuff, but then he admitted I was kind of eyeing the shirt anyway. Now, from a marketing standpoint, on one hand, that did push him to make the purchasing decision. On the other hand, there's a good chance he would have bought it with just 10% off with his pass. So, do you think that the 45% off enticed people that would not be doing that behavior, would not be purchasing to purchase? Or do you think it just enticed people to bite who were probably going to purchase anyway? That's where you walk that line.
I think it was able to get guests who would not have thought to purchase a shirt to at least go in and check it out. And while they're in there, maybe they don't end up purchasing the Beast shirt, but they find other items that they're interested in and end up, buying. So I think it's a nice thing to put out there just to draw traffic into the store. Even if they don't act on it, at least they're in there and they might find something else.
Yeah, I purchased a Beast 45th mug, and to be honest with you, I'm one of those people that I merchandise like I'm gonna buy it, and then years go by and I don't. Especially at Kings Island, when I always have the mentality of always being able to do it. But for example, the Bureau of Paranormal Activity coffee mug, I've been eyeing that for 4 years now, and I finally just bought it. I was like, all right, I'm tired of wanting it. But I will admit that the Beast 45th mug, I'm a coffee drinker now, so I buy coffee mugs, I might add. But for the Beast 45th mug, I'm not certain if I would have bought it, but it was such a steal with the 45% off that I did. So I think for me, it did do what it was supposed to do. But maybe with Daniel, maybe that is a side effect. That's just the cost of doing business, where he probably would have bought the shirt anyway at much lesser of a discount. But at least this way you locked it in because he bought it, even if it is 45% off. And I'd be willing to say that they're still making money at 45% off, or else they'd be out of business by now. Okay. Now, before we go on, I'm going to ask the listeners in the comments for grades A through F. We're going to use the American system here. What grade do you give the 2024 season as of you're listening to it? And why? So do you think it's an A? Do you think that the season is substantial and outstanding? Or do you think it's an F? It's the worst season ever. So let us know in the comments below. So Don, Kings Island 2024, as of early mid-June, what grade do you give it?
I'm going to give it an A minus. I'm, not regretting getting a season pass. I'm enjoying my visits, and there's a couple, there's always going to be little things here and there, that aren't operating that day, or some different things happen. But overall, I'm excited that I bought a season pass, and the value that I'm getting from it.
Yeah, I mean, going down the line, so operations was an A. The staffing thing is not really much worse than it has been in years, with the exception of your racer thing. The food is better than I thought it was going to be. The entertainment's much better than I thought it would be. Camp Snoopy, I gave it a B+. Communications, a C. Everybody has that blemish on the record, I suppose. What grade did you give the app? I can't remember. Did I ask you that?
I'm going to give that a C+.
Okay. I'm going to give it...
just because of the issues that it has, where things are disappearing, or they're not showing showtimes when they're showtimes, just little things like that.
I'm going to give it a C-. And I feel like I'm being generous with that. It looks good. It functions very well. But the fact of the matter is, if it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, you're not going to get the adoption that you're trying to get. So if they can get their stuff in order, especially with the ride wait times, they're off more than ever, except for like Mystic Timbers, which will say it has like a 41-minute wait. Have you noticed that? I don't know if they're using a different system for that or not, but I thought it was just opening day when it said, oh, it's 48 minutes, like it was just a glitch. But it's been every day that Fastlane's been 9 minutes and the line's been 51 minutes or something like that.
I just use the eye test for the most part. I'm not relying on the app to tell me what the wait time is. I just look at it and just from experience can kind of gauge what that's.
Well, I don't stand out front and then look at the app and make the decision. It's basically like, okay, Mystic's not long. Let's walk that way. I don't think it's a true wait time. I want to say that let's put it in the A- range, B+, A- for me. Yeah. And I expected a C- year, so I'm elated with like an A- in this, because most of the categories that I expected to be bad have been much better than they were last year. And things like live entertainment are just way better than they were last year.
We'll come back and we'll revisit all these categories again at the end of July.
Yep. And then Kings Island will have to take their report card home, have it signed by their mother, like I had to when I was a kid. And actually, they can probably just check our grades online at this point. Okay. So, Don, what's with the t-shirt behind you?
That is a Tower Topics t-shirt for fans of the show. If you're interested in purchasing one, very easy to do. Just drop us a message at Tower_Topics on X. Let us know that you're interested. We'll send you the information, the code to make payment via Venmo. Now it's $22. That includes shipping, and we'll get your size in that, and it just takes a matter of days to receive your shirt.
Yeah. So just shoot us a message, Tower_Topics on X. $22 shipped. Let's move on to the listener question. The first listener question is from the real Alex Stiegel from Parts Unknown. Back in January, the both of you mentioned how you wish KI selected Dominator instead of X-Flight/Firehawk. If the B&M Floorless came in 07, where in the park do you think Orion would have been built? Or would it have been a more significant change in plans on what the 09 through 2020 Cedar Fair installations would be? You talk about the butterfly effect. Who knows what things would have changed had they gotten that. Dominator would certainly still be there. I'll tell you that much. But do you think Dominator, let's start at the beginning. Would Dominator have ended up where X-Flight/Firehawk?
I believe that's where they would have put it. That seemed to be the logical place at the time. You had, Vortex was still, where it is. So I think that's where it would have gone. Now, you eventually you put in Diamondback, and then they wanted to build a Giga Coaster. It couldn't have gone where it is now if Dominator was there, but where else could you have built it? I mean, there's still plenty of room at the park to build things. I think what you could look at is where Son of Beast was, the station. Banshee only takes up a small amount of space that Son of Beast did. If you go up in the Eiffel Tower and you look out and you see all that open area where Son of Beast was, it's still available. So you could have almost, where the station is, kind of had your, station there, and then you could have sent it out, that way, out of that open field where Son of Beast used to be. And you might have had a little bit more room, maybe make it a few feet longer, there than where it is right now, where you had to kind of cut it off because you got the Beast right behind it there. So I think that's probably where the Giga Coaster would have gone, is you would have eventually, you would have torn down the Son of Beast station to make way for a new station and a new ride in that area, and just kind of shot it out that way, and just taken up that open space that's available where Son of Beast used to be.
But let's not forget, we've speculated about this forever. If they wanted to really change the landscape of the park, or the skyline of the park, remove Invertigo, Congo, and Timberwolf, and that leaves that whole front-facing section of the park where they could have put it as well.
That's another place where it could have gone, exactly.
Now, I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that one of the arguments made against doing something like that was that right now, even with all the development, the Eiffel Tower is still the centerpiece of the skyline, and putting a Giga Coaster there would have been problematic for that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you would have still put it where the best place was going to be. Even though you got the Eiffel, it's not blocking the Eiffel Tower, because it would have, if you're facing the front gate, it still would have been off to the left-hand side, and it would have run down toward Great Wolf Lodge. So I don't think that would have been, holding it up from going in that spot. But guests still love Invertigo. They still like Congo Falls. So at this point in time, there's no reason to take those out.
I'm not advocating for that. I don't want to be any more clear about that.
Okay, I just want to make sure, Ryan.
I don't really care about Congo, but I love Invertigo. I know I'm in the minority with that, but and you know what? It'll still be a sad day for me if they ever take out Timberwolf because I still want that revitalized. I actually really enjoy having the concerts there.
Yeah, I would love to see, and we've talked about that. What needed to be done if they wanted to get back into the concert business. You need that one individual that's their job. That's what they do. You can't rely on a third party to get it done for you all the time. You got to kind of take it in house and just take that on if you really want to have success with it, like they did in the 1980s when it first opened.
Yeah, and we did kind of talk about how like you've got to find the right bands and group. By the way, I was corrected in the comments. Apparently, Bare Naked Ladies, who I saw as a free concert during Mardi Gras at Universal, but somebody pointed out in the comments that like they're still like rocking it. They sold out Riverbend and stuff. I don't know if I haven't really heard of them coming out with any hits in the past several years. So maybe it's more of a nostalgic thing. But if they're that popular, that that would be another really good band for that regardless. I think that's really cool. um
Exactly.
so yeah, I would love to see that. I think that there's an energy to the park, whether it's Spirit Song or whatever, when a concert's going on. I went to about half the concerts in 2022, really enjoyed them, and I wish it would have worked out, but obviously it seemingly didn't, since they didn't bring them back in 2023. But
And we
Carol,
talked about it on a previous episode where you can't wait until March or April and decide you want to do something in June and July, and these bands are booked. So you got to take what's left, and you just didn't have a terrific lineup that year in 2022. Where if you'd jumped on it, the year before in July or August, and had a year to plan, you could have got some better acts, I think.
yeah, and the acts performed accordingly. I went to Skillet. Skillet's still a very relevant band, and they packed the place. I did not go to Three Doors Down, regrets. But from what I could tell, they had a huge crowd. Um, then the Flock of Seagulls one, I guess the park gave out some tickets. I ended up getting my hands on one. Not many people there for that. And then what was the other? Oh, uh, sorry. Some of these are the Verve Pipe and Five for Fighting. And I knew who the Verve Pipe was, but Five for Fighting, I had always heard of him, but I didn't know any of his songs. Granted, that was a terrible storm, a very interesting situation. They had to evacuate and all that, but that's for a different day. But no one there, you know. But again, if you bring in the right acts, they sell tickets. But that's
Yeah, I mean, I worked at Cincinnati Gardens, and we had concerts in that building. I knew how far in advance we had to reach out to get some of those acts. So it's possible. If you want that to be part of the offerings for the next season, you can do it. You can get in some good acts, but you have to start booking them 10 months, 12 months, 14 months out.
yeah. Good question. Next one's from Tommy B from Deer Park, Ohio. He said, "Are
Hey,
you
that's
guys?"
where I was born.
That's where Wildman Walker's from. Are you guys more excited about? Sorry, I think that's where he lives now, rather than where he's from, because you both are from like Anderson. It's irrelevant. Okay, so are you guys more excited about the Bubble Show that will be at Kings Island for a minute, or the Stunt Show that will be in the show place opening later this month? So as of this recording, the Bubble Show opens this coming weekend, and then the Stunt Show is the following weekend.
Following week, yes.
Which one are you more excited about?
Um, I think the stunt show, based on what it has been the last couple of years there, what I've seen, got to see a little bit of some rehearsals for it. It's not the full show, and you don't have everybody out there on stage, but uh, the stage itself looks fantastic.
It
It's got that
does, doesn't it?
campy look. I mean, it looks amazing. So for me, I think I'm going to lean toward that. Even though the Bubble Show's only there for 3 weeks, I don't feel, for me, that there's urgency to see it while it's at Kings Island, because it's going to be at Dollywood this summer too. So I'll be able to catch it there if I miss it at Kings Island. So there's not like that urgency for me to see that where there is, because I'm not going to see the stunt show anywhere else.
So I'm kind of torn on this. This is a really good question. I never really thought about it. Um, the stunt show, like I said, the set looks really, really cool. Um, and I'm sure it'll be a good show, but we have had shows like that for the past 3 years. So that kind of works against it. But on the other hand, the bubble show I saw about 10 years ago at SeaWorld, and I stand by the way I described it, at least when I saw it. It's about 20, 25 minutes of some dude blowing bubbles and doing bubble tricks and, snooze fest. And then the last like 5 minutes or so, they got lasers and bubbles and so on.
Yeah, it's amazing the last part of it.
So, but the thing though is like Kings Island Entertainment in a lot of ways kind of really does later on the wow moment stuff. So I'm wondering if there's going to be like just something just a little extra at the end that makes it kind of unique, that where the tech people from Kings Island came up with an idea to add something else in, or something like that, like I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm wondering if that's true. Plus it is unique, and I'm very curious as to how people react to it, because I'm not above admitting that I'm wrong if it does go over very, very well. I know at SeaWorld it kind of didn't. It was one of those things, and granted, they replaced their very elaborate Cirque du Soleil show with it, so it had very big shoes to fill. But I'm curious as to how it's going to turn out, what it's going to look like, how it's changed over the past 10 years since I've seen it, so I would say it's far. I'm not saying it's going to be the better of the two shows, but which one I'm more excited for is probably the Bubble show at this point.
Okay, so we're both different there. So we'll have a chance to talk about it after you've experienced the bubble show and I've experienced the stunt show, and maybe we see the other one, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I mean the bubble show
Yeah,
is it's interesting. It's unique. They've never had that kind of a show at Kings Island, so I think there's something to be said about that too.
I'm always rooting for the park. I know it doesn't always sound like it, but when I said, at SeaWorld, it really didn't it didn't land very well and stuff. I'm not rooting for that to happen at Kings Island. I hope it goes to Kings Island. I hope it's this great show, and even though it's only there for 3 weeks, people are wanting more. And the big disappointment is the fact that it's only there for a few weeks. And I oddly feel like that could end up being the case. I've just got a feeling that I've got a good feeling about this show, even though I've seen it. And the first time I saw it, I wasn't
Mhm.
particularly fond of it. I've just got a good feeling that this is going to it's been tweaked. It's going to be appropriate for Kings Island. It's going to land right. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. And we'll do a show on, I don't know if we'll do a show on them combined or just the Bubble show or whatever. Probably combine them because there isn't necessarily a whole lot to say about either one. But um, gosh, if that goes over well, and if the stunt show is really good, you talk about an A+ entertainment lineup. I mean, we gave it an A in a previous episode, just grading the season, just with the shows that are open now. But if these land really well, that's just going to back it up that much more.
Yeah, well, let's ask our guests. What do you think? What are you more excited about? Leave a comment for us, and we'll see where it lands. If you're on Team Ryan, you're more excited about the Bubble Show, or Team Don, you're more excited about the Stunt Show. Just let us know.
Yeah, and let us know why you think that. Cool. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.